everyone, and welcome to Studio Classroom on the Air. My name is Andrea, and today is a great day to learn something new.
It certainly is, so let's do that together, friends. My name is Gabe.
Well, yesterday we began our lesson about animal testing, and it presented two different views on what could be a controversial subject.
That's right. So yesterday was all about the possible reasons for why, yes, animal testing is defensible, or it is okay in certain situations. For example, animals are different from humans, right? There is no "you shall not kill" moral standard among animals as there is among humans.
Well, today we are going to look at the opposing view, which is no, it's not okay to test on animals. And we are going to be introduced to an interesting word. The word is speciesism. Now, we'd like you to listen to that word in our lesson and see if you can find the meaning.
And there are other isms that you might think of, right? What other isms come to your mind? Maybe atheism or socialism or racism. A lot of times when you see ISM at the end of a word, it implies there's a belief system, maybe a philosophical belief system behind that. So what does speciesism mean? Well, I guess maybe you can guess what it means in context today.
All right, so friends, if you have your magazines, and we hope you do, please open them to today's lesson, and let's begin our first reading.
Is animal testing defensible? No. Ethical animal experimentation is a contradiction in terms. And even if it weren't, the unnecessary suffering caused by this poorly regulated industry would still be unacceptable. Humans are members of the animal kingdom. Non-human animals also feel emotions such as joy, sadness, and fear, just like humans do.
Behaving as if people are more important than other animals is speciesism.
And no excuse for cruelty or exploitation. In the U.S. alone, chemical, drug, food, and cosmetics experiments kill over 100 million animals every year.
Hello everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 我们先来看 contradiction 这个名词，意思是矛盾或是抵触。譬如 To me, a veggie burger seems to be a contradiction in terms. 对我来说，蔬菜汉堡这个词似乎自相矛盾。或者是 I have found a contradiction in what you wrote on your application and what you are telling me now. 我发现你写的申请书内容和你说的相抵触。再举一个例句 What his troops did was in direct contradiction to the general's orders. 他的部队所做的完全违背了将军的命令。接着来看 cosmetic 这个名词，意思是化妆品。譬如 My wife always buys her cosmetics when the department store has a sale. 我太太总是在百货公司打折时去买化妆品。Cosmetic 也可以当形容词，意思是装饰性的或是整容的。例如 My car just required some cosmetic work after someone hit me. 我的车被撞之后，外观需要美容一下。再举个例句 Claire traveled to South Korea to have cosmetic surgery. Claire 飞去南韩整容。All right, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you, Jack. Well, today, friends, we are looking at the opposing view. And the opposing view of yes is no. Our article starts by saying, Ethical animal experimentation is a contradiction in terms. That means that these words don't even go together, or they shouldn't go together because they don't make sense.
Exactly. Animal experimentation just does not fit with the idea of being ethical at all, so therefore they think it's a contradiction in terms. And we read, and even if it weren't, the unnecessary suffering caused by this poorly regulated industry would still be unacceptable. Okay, so friends, you saw yesterday's lesson and now you see today's lesson, and it might seem like the facts are different or there are conflicting facts. Yesterday we learned about the strictly regulated industry. Here we read about this poorly regulated industry. That is because when people are arguing about something and they're presenting their view, they may believe things that are completely different or opposite to each other, right? So according to people who oppose animal testing, they would say it is a poorly regulated industry.
Yes, and those who oppose animal testing also put humans in the same group as animals.
That's right.
As we continue reading, humans are members of the animal kingdom. Now, the animal kingdom refers to all living animals. Humans, animals are all part of that same kingdom.
That's right, and according to science, it's true. We are part of the animal kingdom. So sometimes it's really about how you phrase something to get people to think about something in a different way, right? Yesterday, we learned about how animals really are different from humans. And here we see how humans are similar to animals in this way. Non-human animals also feel emotions such as joy, sadness, and fear, just like humans do.
Now, when I read this, it did make me think of animals, especially maybe pets that you have at home. I mean, I have a cat, and sometimes I feel like she shows fear or she shows excitement, especially some of you might have dogs at home and are able to, or you think you're able to see emotions of those animals.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we continue here. Behaving as if people are more important than other animals is speciesism and no excuse for cruelty or exploitation. Now, there's that word speciesism, right? This is the assumption that humans really are superior to animals, okay? And with the idea that this idea leads to the exploitation of animals. That means maybe treating animals in a cruel way or something. And this idea of speciesism also carries with it the idea that humans therefore have more rights than animals do.
Right, but of course this is no excuse for cruelty or exploitation. Now let's look at those words, no excuse. Now we use these words for emphasizing that something should not happen.
Yeah, there's no excuse for that, right? Another word for excuse is reason. Reason could often have a good connotation. Sometimes we often use the word excuse to talk about it in kind of a negative way. It's like, what's your excuse for doing that bad thing, right? For another example, his mistake is no excuse for me being unkind. I should still be kind to someone even though they did something I really don't like.
Right, and in our article it says no excuse for cruelty or exploitation. Now what does that word exploitation mean? Well, that means treating someone unfairly. And we can talk about animal exploitation. Or we also sadly see this among humans. You might have heard of children exploitation, where kids have to work at a very young age. Or can you think of another type of exploitation?
Well, human trafficking in general, right? Well, so you're mentioning like child labor or child slavery. And then there's human trafficking, which could be seen as another kind of slavery as well. That is definitely human exploitation. It's not a good thing. Well, we continue here. In the U.S. alone, chemical, drug, food, and cosmetics experiments kill over 100 million animals every year. Okay, we're going to learn more about this view of why animal testing is indefensible later on. But right now, let's go see what we can learn in today's Info Cloud.
Hi friends, welcome to InfoCloud. Mania, I just finished Nelson Mandela's biography, Long Walk to Freedom, and I highly recommend it.
Thanks for the recommendation, Rex. I haven't read that book, but I know Mandela was a person of principle.
Let's talk about the term person of principle. A person of principle is someone who faithfully follows his or her beliefs or values rather than abandoning them when it's convenient. In Mandela's example, he was imprisoned for 27 years because he refused to give up his goal of a South Africa where people of all colors were equal.
Yes, we can also say man of principle or woman of principle. But the term person of principle covers both men and women, so it's used more often. Let's talk more about the term principle. A principle is a moral rule or standard of behavior that guides your actions.
For example, a principle I teach my kids is love your neighbor as yourself. Treat others like you want to be treated. This principle is something we have to keep working on as human nature is selfish by nature.
That's true. Friends, what are your principles? Let's work hard to be persons of principle.
当我们遇到一种人非常有原则，不会因为蝇头小利就出卖自己，你可以用今天介绍的用语 person of principle 来形容他。通常一位 person of principle 在生活上非常根据自己的理念和规范去做事情，不会因为一些方便而放弃原则。这些原则可以是爱人如己或荣誉至上的崇高理念。Nelson Mandela was a person of principle. 曼德拉是一位坚守原则的人。如果要形容的更加的个人化，你也可以用 man of principle 有原则的男人，或 woman of principle 有原则的女人来称呼这样的人。这就是今天的 InfoCloud， 我们下次云端见。
Studio Classroom is on the air.
There you go. You have your foundation on. Now we're just powdering you up a little. Whoa!
Stop!
What?
Don't test your cosmetics on animals.
Oh, it's okay, Andrea. This is not the kind of experiment that our lesson is talking about. Silly Andrea.
Okay, Gabe. Well, then what you're doing is just strange.
Oh.
Okay, well, let's continue our lesson. What?
Is animal testing defensible? The Animal Welfare Act, meant to protect animals, does not apply to rats, mice, fish, and birds, which account for about 95% of research animals. This enables what could be considered the torture of millions of animals. The benefits of animal experimentation are often exaggerated. Very little hard evidence has been linked to its supposed benefits upon closer inspection. On rare occasions, when it has, the knowledge gained could have been obtained without the use of animals. Scientists have other avenues to obtain necessary data, two of which are lab-grown tissue and computer modeling. When future generations look back on the barbaric and unnecessary way people treated research animals, and for so little benefit, they'll be horrified.
OK， 再来看 torture 这个名词，意思是折磨、拷打。譬如 ，Those captured by enemy troops endured a lot of torture。被敌军俘虏的人都受到许多虐待。再看一句 It was torture for Aurora to wait for Justin to ask her out on a date. Aurora 等 Justin 约她出去，等得好折磨啊。Torture 也可以当动词，譬如 It is illegal by international law for countries to torture people they capture during wartime. 战争时期，严刑拷打俘虏是违反国际法的。最后来看 look back 这个片语动词，意思是回头看、回顾。譬如 At dinner with some childhood friends, we began to look back on all the fun we had had in elementary school. 和几个童年时代的朋友吃晚餐的时候，我们开始回顾国小时期所有的趣事。或者是 Many couples look back on their first few years of marriage and wonder how they survived with very little money. 很多夫妻回顾婚后头几年的日子时，都觉得奇怪，当初没钱是怎么样熬过来的。如果在 look back 前面加上 never， 变成 never look back， 字面的意思是永不回头，但是另外一个意思是从此一路顺遂。譬如 When Patrick Williams was drafted by the Bulls, he never looked back. Patrick Williams 被公牛队选上之后，从此就一帆风顺。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
All right, well, our article continues by telling us more about the Animal Welfare Act. Now, this organization is meant to protect animals. Now, the way that's worded there is it's meant to protect animals. That's what it was made to do, but it doesn't really do that. It does not apply to rats, mice, fish, and birds. And these animals account for about 95% of research animals.
That's true. You know who else it doesn't apply to? Farm animals.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I had read anyway. So that's a lot of animals that are excluded from this Animal Welfare Act. A lot of animals that this organization is not committed to protecting. But let's talk about this phrase here, to account for something.
That's right. When you account for something, you look at the total of something.
You look at the total, yeah, exactly, or maybe you're forming the part of the total. So you could use this in another way, like students account for the majority of our viewers here at Studio Classroom. Of course, we have lots of other people who are watching our program, but students, you account for the majority of our viewers. You know, this word or this phrase can also mean something different. It could mean to explain the reason for something, and you could use that like this. Scientists could not account for the monkey's sudden violent behavior. They're not sure why the monkeys started acting violently so suddenly.
Our article continues by saying that this enables what could be considered the torture of millions of animals. The benefits of animal experimentation are often exaggerated. Now, here they're saying that the benefits are exaggerated. That means they are bigger, or they are said to be bigger than they actually are.
That's right. So that's what the opponents to animal testing are saying. Okay, these benefits are just exaggerated. We go on to see more details here. Very little hard evidence, remember that phrase from yesterday's info cloud? Very little hard evidence has been linked to its supposed benefits upon closer inspection. That means after they've taken a closer look at these benefits that animal testing has given us, they realize, oh, well, there's not much evidence that this has actually been beneficial at all.
Yeah, so upon closer inspection, we use these words to talk about looking at something in more detail. You could say, upon closer inspection, the jeweler noticed that the diamond in the ring was not real.
That's a great example. Can you think of another way to use that phrase, friends? Well, we read on here, on rare occasions when it has, that means it has been beneficial, the knowledge gained could have been obtained without the use of animals. So even though we learn something or gain something through the testing, that could have been gained in another way.
And scientists have other avenues, other ways to obtain necessary data, two of which are lab-grown tissue and computer modeling. Now, I looked up lab-grown tissue, and this is pretty fascinating. They have actually been able to grow human skin, and they've done testing on that human skin with things like cosmetics.
Yeah.
And they've been able to use that for testing, not harming anyone or any living creatures.
Well, talk about experimentation right there. That's one way to do it. Speaking of experiments, let's see how the word experiment is used in a skit.
Welcome to my lab. I am a scientist.
And I am a rat.
And I am here to do an experiment.
Yay! An experiment? What's that?
It's what scientists do when they want to find out something.
Oh, so how do they experiment?
They test things. They try things out in a laboratory.
Well, can you give me an example?
Yes. Today, I will test this new medicine. I'll experiment and discover if it works or not.
Oh, sounds interesting.
Yes. If this experiment works, it will be a great help to many.
But what if it doesn't work? What will happen?
Oh, I'm not sure. But it could cause terrible sickness and pain.
Oh, no. So what's the experiment? How do you find out?
Well, I give this injection and write down what happens.
You give an injection? A shot?
Yes. So, are you ready for the experiment?
Oh, yeah. Let's get started.
Okay. Hold still. Let me give you the injection.
What? Me? Oh, no. You're the scientist. You first.
No.
No. Oh.
Well, friends, we have had 2 great days of talking about animal testing. And of course, this is a controversial topic. People might have very strong opinions on the yes or the no side. And often, it's not easy to talk to people about controversial subjects, right, Gabe?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think it takes a certain kind of skill, a certain kind of sympathy or empathy to really engage effectively with somebody else about something you might disagree with. Because often we could get into arguments, sometimes we get into heated arguments or heated debates, and then it might end and nothing really is accomplished.
Exactly. Yes. So I think one important thing to remember when you're having these heated discussions, we sometimes say if a topic is controversial, is to be respectful. Be respectful of what the other person is saying and listen in a respectful way.
That's right. Really listen to them, not just thinking about what you're going to say next, but listen without interrupting, right? And I think another key idea is to seek to understand, because we don't have the whole picture. I only understand what I think I know, but really I don't even have the whole picture, so I want to seek to understand the situation more thoroughly.
Yeah, I agree. And as you seek to understand, you can also learn new things and you can put that into your own perspective. Well, friends, we hope that some of these tips help you if you have to have that discussion or that conversation about a controversial topic. And we want to say thank you so much for joining us for these lessons. They weren't always easy to talk about, but it's good to have that practice. And please join us again here on Studio Classroom.